Have you ever really thought about the ground beneath your feet? I mean, not just the dirt or the concrete, but the invisible system that decides what goes where in our world? Today, we're going to dive into land use. It's like the hidden blueprint that shapes our cities, our countryside, and yeah, even our lives. Let's get into it.
I mean, think about your drive to work or school. You pass houses, then a bunch of shops, a school, maybe a big industrial park, way out on the edge of town. It all kind of seems random, but trust me, it's not. There's a very good reason the skyscraper isn't planted next to a cornfield. And by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly what that reason is.
You know, the easiest way to get your head around land use is to just think about your own house. You've got a kitchen for cooking, a bedroom for sleeping, a living room for hanging out. You wouldn't put your bed in the middle of the kitchen, right? Things would get chaotic fast. Well, land use is just that same idea, but scaled up to the size of a whole city or even a country. It's all about creating order out of what could be total chaos.
All right, so let's put an official definition on this. What are we actually talking about when we say land use?
So this definition points out two really key things: geography and human needs. Land use is basically where those two things crash into each other. It's this constant negotiation between what the land can naturally give us, like, say, fertile soil for farming, and what we as a society need, like places to live, to work, and to play.
Now, to really see this in action, let's look at two totally different places: the buzzing, chaotic city and the wide open countryside. Their needs couldn't be more different, so the way they use land is also, well, it's worlds apart. So on one side, you've got rural land. The population is spread out, and the main gig is usually agriculture. It's all about working with the natural landscape. Then you flip over to urban land. It's packed with people, and there's a huge variety of stuff all crammed into a tiny area. It's less about what the land can do naturally and way more about what we can build on top of it. Out in the countryside, the categories are pretty straightforward and tied directly to nature. You've got arable land, which is just land that's being actively farmed for crops. Then there's fallow land. That's land that's taking a season off to rest and get its nutrients back. And of course, forest land, which is absolutely critical for our ecosystem. Each one has a clear, natural role. Okay, now let's jump to the city. Whoa, the complexity just explodes. You've got commercial zones for businesses, residential zones for homes, and huge transport networks just to move people around. Plus, land for public utilities, parks and recreational areas, and even mixed-use land, where you might have apartments on top of shops. This complexity, it's a direct mirror of how dense and complex our lives are in a city.
But here's the kicker: none of this is set in stone. Land use is a living, breathing thing. As our needs change, as populations move, and economies shift, the way we use land changes right along with it. It's constantly evolving.
And this slide shows that change perfectly. Take a look at the left. That's a village landscape back in 2010. Now look to the right. This is the same exact place just 7 years later. You can see the built-up areas have crept outwards, new roads have popped up, and the green space is starting to get squeezed. This is literally the story of development written on the face of the land.
And we can see that same story playing out in the data. This chart shows what happened in the Indian state of Maharashtra over about 20 years. See that bar for non-agricultural land? It's steadily climbing up. That's urbanization in action. At the same time, the fallow or resting land has gone down, which tells us farming is probably getting more intense.
This donut chart gives us a great snapshot from around 2011. Now, even with all that growth, you can see agriculture is still the big kahuna, making up over 62% of the land. But that growing slice of non-agricultural land, the one at 9.1%, that's where all the action is. That's the piece of the pie that's changing everything. So, with land constantly being bought, sold, and changed, how in the world does anyone keep track of who owns what? Well, that brings us to the paperwork, the official records that make this whole system work. In many places, it all comes down to official documents, just like these, which are the legal proof of who owns what. On the left, you've got something called a 712 extract, and on the right, a property card. Yeah, they might look a little complicated, but they are incredibly important records that the entire system is built on. Here's the key difference, and it's pretty simple when you break it down. The 712 extract, that's for rural agricultural land. It's got all the details about the owner and what's being grown. The property card, that's for the city, for non-agricultural property, like houses and office buildings. Two different documents for two very different worlds. Okay, So we've talked about what land use is, how it's different in the city versus the country, how it changes, and how it's all documented. But let's zoom out one last time and ask the biggest question of all. Why does any of this actually matter to you and me?
It matters because every single one of these choices to build a highway here, to save a forest there, to allow new housing in this neighborhood, it all has a ripple effect. These decisions shape the character of our towns, the health of our planet, and the quality of our day-to-day lives. The landscape you see right outside your window is a direct reflection of our society's priorities. And that kind of leaves us with one final big thought. As our population keeps growing and our cities keep expanding, the pressure on every single piece of land is only going to get more intense. Every square foot becomes a critical choice between a farm, a factory, a park, or a home. So the question isn't just how we use our land, is what kind of world do we actually want to build with it? What choices should we be making for our future?